Well, g'day curd nerds. G'day curd nerds. Well, 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 g'day curd nerds. Let's just see if that's working. Yep, all good. Welcome to Ask the Cheeseman, where you can ask your home cheese making questions. We are at episode 117. 117. I feel privileged to be here and answer your questions. A little bit of housekeeping as always to start off. We've got a new YouTube member who's actually in the chat, which is Matthew Morris, and Matthew lives in the Netherlands. Thank you, Matthew, for being a financial member, and thanks to all the financial members who keep the show going. You can see their names in green, usually, with a lovely cheesy icon next to them. They're the ones supporting the show financially. There are obviously patrons as well who don't have their names highlighted, which is just one of those things. But thanks for supporting the show as well. Okay, so videos come out. You would have seen a sneak peek last night that I posted up around all of the taste tests that I'll be doing very soon. So I've actually got 7 videos in post-production now. So this week's video, and sorry it was delayed, it was Father's Day on Sunday. Yes, Sunday. So it was Father's Day on Sunday, and I forgot that it was Father's Day. But yeah, so I didn't get around to making any videos, any editing anyway. So this week's video will be made by Cow, which is cold pressed raw milk cheese. I'm just going through how that's made, how the milk's made, and what the cheese turned out like. So that'll be interesting. There is going to be a video probably in a couple of weeks' time, which I just finished now, Grana Padano style. Very similar to its cousin Parmesan, but a few different nuances, and I found that the curds were very grainy indeed. Taste test videos, we're going to have the stabilised paste Camembert, that's coming up soon, Stout Cheddar, Lancashire, Wensleydale with Cranberries, and Cotswold. So they're the cheeses that will be, you'll have a taste test soon. Okay, as far as a picture goes, Ruth, just refresh your screen, it should be fine. Seems to be working here for me. Okay, we've got lots of people on the chat. Matthew was the first one off the bat. Thanks, Matthew. Lynette, a Rose, Jordan, Wilma, Charlie, Aga, Ruth, of course, Larry, Deep South Texas. We also got Patricia. G'day, Patricia. Bruce. G'day, Bruce. John, as always, lovely to see you, mate. Jacqueline. G'day, Jacqueline. And that'll do to start with, I think. Craig. Oh, g'day, Craig. David. Bob and Barb. G'day, Bob and Barb. Happy Farmer. And Charles. I think that'll do to start with. First question first, which is the super chat from Ruth we had earlier. Ruth said, I made goat's milk cheddar, came out beautifully, had about 9 litres of whey and made ricotta, or tried. Followed the recipe and went to drain, no ricotta. What happened? It all depends on how much protein was left in the whey. If with goat's milk, normally when I make goat's milk cheese, the whey comes out very clear, and if there's no leftover casein or proteins in the whey, then you won't get any yield at all. Sometimes it's not even worth trying. You'll notice that the creamier the whey is after you've made your cheese, the more ricotta you're going to get. Out of 9 litres of whey, you're lucky to be getting 250 grams of ricotta, if you're lucky, Ruth. So Yeah, ricotta's a bit of a hit and miss. It all depends on um, how much stuff's left in the whey itself. So you didn't do anything wrong, but you could have used it for so much stuff, which is cool. I'm actually doing a video at the moment. I had the pleasure of filming my chickens on the weekend, my two chickens, Dora the Explorer and Mrs. Potts. That's what my chickens are called. And they were lapping up a big bowl of whey, really enjoying it. So you'll see some footage of that soon. And me watering some fruit trees as well. So the first other question is from Lynette. My question today: my cheese finish after press and 2 or 3 day air dry. When I put them into my cheese cave, a fridge with wax, I find they are shrinking a bit. Why is that? It's usually because the moisture is evaporating out of the cheese. Cheese shrinks during the aging process, so that's totally normal. Matthew has a question about sanitisation. He says, how often do I need to spray my cheese making equipment whilst making cheese? Should I spray the thermopen between every dip in the milk to check the temperature? Good question, Matthew. I just sanitise once up front. So all of the stainless steel gear I boil in the cheese pot with some water, including the cheesecloth. And you would have seen that from time to time on the channel. Anything that I can't, I wash in hot water, or I can rinse in boiling water, just pour it over it. The plastic things are the things that melt and warp. So sometimes I just wash them in hot soapy water, very hot soapy water, and then rinse them off with hot water, and then basically spray them with vinegar. Now, as far as the thermopen goes, all I do is just clean it with a clean tea towel in between dippings. So that should suffice. But certainly I don't get any infections for any of my milk, so that works. Okay. Let me just have a look. Where are we up to? Sorry about that. Wilma Charlie says, hi Gavin, I have been given a faulty fridge that runs at 10 degrees. Would that be okay for cheese maturation? Yeah, I would think so, Wilma Charlie. A lot of my cheeses, well, my cheese fridge is set between 11 and 13 degrees. It kind of drifts a little bit, which is okay, and that's no big hassle. Certainly works. However, if you got a faulty fridge, what's not to say that it's going to get worse? So you're going to have to monitor the temperature fairly closely in case the thermostat goes wonky even more. But 10 degrees will be fine. I think it'll mature a little bit more slowly, but it should be okay. Matthew has another question about culture. When using raw milk, should I use less culture? And does that apply to all cultures added to the cheese? When using raw milk, yes, you can use less culture indeed, Matthew. It just needs enough to start the colony off and propagate through the milk. Raw milk's the ideal medium for growing the starter cultures, so you won't have too much trouble with that. I'd only ease off about 25%, but we put in such small amounts anyway, it won't really matter. There are lactic bacteria. In fact, you can make cheese without adding any starter cultures when using raw milk. Just leave it 12 hours overnight at room temperature, and you'll get a lot of lactic bacteria activity in the milk, and then you can start warming it up and making cheese with it. And you'll get a fairly good cheese. Jordan says, we tried a 3-month-old Cotswold on Saturday, and it was good. Put the rest away to continue to age for another 3 months. Can't wait. Fantastic. Yeah, I was very surprised that my Cotswold was 5 months old, and the flavour was just outstanding. It was probably one of the best Cotswolds that I'd ever made, so that was cool. Aga's got a hint here around hygiene. You can never be 100%. Never. Keep it all as clean as you can. Introduce your cultures, gives them a huge advantage over the stuff in the air. That's true indeed. The exact quality of any culture is balance. Too little and the environmental cultures have a chance to take over. too much and your bioactive thingy goes ape shit and matures the cheese too fast. Yes, don't add too much starter culture. Ruth is back from vacation. Lovely to see you, Ruth, and thank you so much for your $10 super chat. I really appreciate it. And so does Kim. And it looks like we have another super chat going on there. Whoops, what's going on? Come on, phone, work. There we go, turn that off. And who's that from? That's from Jim Jackson. G'day, Jim. Lovely to see you. G'day, Gav. It's great to be here for the weekly meeting of the Curd Nerds to learn at the feet of our king nerd. Well, I don't profess to be the king, but thank you very much anyway. And there's your gold star, mate. Appreciate it. Okay. Ruth says, thanks for the real mozzarella advice. No more quick moz. This time it stretched to my height. Lots of fun and lost my fear of pasta filata. Thank you. Yeah, no problems, Ruth. Maybe I should scrap that quick mozzarella video. It's probably given more people more heartache, and just moving on to normal mozzarella, it works well. Jordan says, I leave tomorrow for 4 nights in Washington, D.C., and then 7 nights in Glasgow, Scotland. Can't wait to try some cheeses from a Scottish monger. I emailed ahead for their recommendations. Very nice indeed. It's always good to have a bit of travel, broaden your horizons and all that. Hopefully it's with work, but work pays. It's much better than you paying yourself, but that's cool. Larry, g'day, mate. Lovely to see you as well. Matthews has another question. Matthew's got it looks like he's got the questions flowing. How damaging is not flipping the cheeses every day when you're supposed to? Can I never go on holiday again? Okay, so the only cheeses you need to flip daily are really the bloomy rind ones. And that's because you don't want any marks on the cheese itself. The mat will you'll get little grid lines, especially when you're trying to develop a bloomy rind all over. So really it's the Camembert, Brie styles, that sort of stuff, maybe bloomy goat blue, that you have to turn every day. And I do religiously for those cheeses, because if you don't, they get funny lines on them. The white mold sticks to the mat and it tears off, and yeah, you really do. So my advice to you is don't make bloomy rind cheeses before you go on holiday. Now, for the other ones, it's a suggestion. We're home cheese makers, not commercial ones. It's a suggestion that you turn the cheeses every week, and that assists with even ripening. It helps the fat distribute evenly through the cheese, and so on and so forth. So that's why we flip the cheeses over. Stops them sticking on things as well. But if you want to go on 2 weeks holiday, 3 weeks holiday, just leave your cheeses where they are. Most of them will either be waxed or vacuum packed anyway, so there shouldn't be an issue. Sometimes I miss them for 2 weeks, no problems at all. My cheeses turn out fine, so you will be able to go on holiday. Aga says, cheese is a bio-war where you are the general. You get to choose the soldiers, the plan and the manoeuvres, but you have to wait to see how the battle ends. That's a very good analogy, Aga. You wise words today. Jordan says he's going to be trying some Isle of Mull, Farmhouse Cheddar, Hebridean Blue, Grand Jura Swiss, Farmhouse Gouda, Comté, Forme d'Ambert Blue, Pecorino Sardo, and a couple of local ones too. That sounds like a fantastic smorgasbord of cheese, which is great. We got some other questions. Ruth says, Patricia, thanks for the ripening box info. I think Ruth must have picked one up, which is good. Where are we? Aga says, ricotta depends on what's left. If it's processed in any way, you get less left over. I've never had any ricotta success from processed milk. Oh, there you go. Ruth says, what do people do to take care of their cheese when they go on vacation? I know in San Francisco they have hotels for sourdough starters. Very cool indeed. But like I said, you don't have to turn it religiously, but only if it's a bloomy rind, so it should be good. John Lord says Brady Bunch. Pasta. It's always right. So it's Marsha. Right. Okay. Cool. Aga says personally, I feel that the generally available milk has lots of good stuff removed to be sold separately. Aga says this guy Gavin keeps butting in. That's my job, mate. Jacqueline says I tried using store bought milk. Either my rennet, and citric acid was old, or I didn't do something right because my milk never set up. Please help. Did you add any calcium chloride, Jacqueline? Would be the first question, because using store-bought milk, and just make sure that it wasn't ultra-pasteurized. That would be the issue, maybe, because it just won't set a curd, full stop. That's all there is to it. If you can get your hands on some pasteurized, unhomogenized, you'll have better success. And you actually don't say what cheese you are making, but I assume you're making quick mozzarella. Bruce, no, where are we? Sorry. Ruth says, Bruce, I took your advice and bought cheese on vacation. Tried a smoked goat's milk cheddar, and that's where I got the idea to make it. Thanks for the suggestion. Lovely little community. I'll just sit back and just keep reading the comments. Bob and Barb says, hi, Gavin. I mentioned in a previous post that my cheeses all have a bitter taste. Well, I changed to vegetable rennet, and my next cheese was your Petite Blue, and it turned out great. Well done. Good on you, Bob and Barb. Craig says, hi, Gavin and Kim and fellow curd nerds. Hope you're well. We are doing fine. Thanks, mate. It says there's a fuzzy picture. No. Right. Aga says, yep, I re-clicked on the URL to get it going. Clear picture. Indeed. Where are we? Charles, g'day, Charles. How are you? Is it Tryon? I think that's how you say it. G'day, mate. William, g'day. All these people coming from everywhere. I think Casius from Iceland. G'day, mate. Happy Farmer says, good idea to give the way to the chickens. Thanks. Yes, it is. John says, did you just get 1,000 to 2,000 new subs? Yes, indeed. Been a heck of a week, actually, on the channel. The Parmesan video, for whatever reason, the magical YouTube algorithm has decided that it wants to show the making Parmesan cheese, the Italian hard cheese one, 24/7 to everybody in the world, and I think it's getting something like 5,000 views in 48 hours. So the subs are coming on hard and strong. I think maybe since it's clocked over at 150,000 subs, the YouTube algorithm seems to be going crazy. So go figure. I can't figure it out, but I just keep making cheese videos that people like, I hope, and it all happens. Fricky says, Mr. Weber, is sharpness in cheese a function of the age of the cheese or mold and bacteria? Good question. It is a combination of both. The type of lactic bacteria that you add to the cheese is one factor. If you have added any molds that are additional ripening molds, not so much. Lipase is one of those ripening enzymes that you can add that provides a sharpness or a piquant flavour to your cheese, but that's really only in hard Italian-style cheeses. Sharpness is definitely a function of aging. It's the action of a process called lipolysis and proteolysis that converts the fats and the proteins into enzymes do those two processes and converts the fats and proteins into the flavors that we love and the sharpness in the cheese. So the sharper the cheese, the longer it has been matured and the older it is. Craig says, a tip. I use at 65 degrees Celsius. I tip in about 1.5 cups of milk into the whey to make ricotta. Continue to heat it to temperature. That's a good tip, Craig, because what happens is whatever proteins are left over in the in the whey stick to the casein in the milk. So that works very well, and you get a higher yield, definitely. Um, okay. Casius says, I have a question. Can you show us your cheese cave setup? Yes, indeed, Kim. If you can pop up the video link for Casius for the My Cheese Cave video, and that'll show him how the external thermostat works and the cheese fridge and all that sort of stuff. Okay. John says, whey was tossed to the pigs. Pig slop made them into healthy, big and strong hogs, the amino acids. Those chickens are going to turn into turkeys. They're already pretty big girls as it is. Maybe even turn those chickens into ostriches or emus. Maybe emus, mate. Maybe not many ostriches around here. But yes, they do enjoy it. I used to give some to the dogs, but it gives them the runs. So when I have to clean up all their doggy doo-doos, then I'm not. Anyway, let's not go there, shall we? Okay, Ruth says, I know that you don't have to use calcium chloride when working with raw milk. I am afraid to not use it, so I do anyway. Is that a bad idea? No, not at all, Ruth. It's fine. You won't have any noticeable difference in the cheese. Okay. So Matt says, hey, Gavin, will vacuum packing Havarti affect the flavour? Not the flavour, but it'll probably affect the shape. It's a very soft cheese. So I recommend that if you're making Havarti, then you vacuum pack it, or you don't vacuum pack it because it squeezes the cheese even flatter because it's such a soft cheese that you either use a PVA coating, which you can buy from cheese stores, or you wax the cheese, or use a PVA coating and then wax it. You'll find that it maintains its shape a lot better. But the flavour will be the same either way. You just have a flat Havarti. Ruth says, yes, scrap that quick mozzarella. As Patricia once said, it causes PTSD. Yeah, it does a little bit. It takes a while to get the hang of. Took me a while to get the hang of it anyway. Charles says, hi, Gavin. Recipe is calling for 2 gallons of milk. I want to increase it to 3 or 4. What portions of culture, calcium chloride and rennet should I use, please? Charles, it's like making a cake. So if you want to double the amount of milk, or double your yield, of course, same thing, then you simply double all of the ingredients. If you want to make a smaller cheese, you halve the recipe if you're going to use half the amount of milk. The only thing you don't change, of course, is the timings, the temperatures, and the pressing pressure. However, if it's a cheese that's been brined, then you'll find that you'll need to reduce the brining time appropriately. So same as the ingredients, because you're adding, it's an ingredient, salt. So you do it less. Okay, I hope that helps, mate. Charles Newkirk, so a different Charles. Can I make raw milk into cheese all by itself, or is it risky? I heard cheesemakers in England are doing it, and I'm really interested. But if it's safe to pasteurize, I would like to know. Well, raw milk's been around for thousands, since humans domesticated animals. They've been milking them and drinking their milk to no harm at all. Yes, you can make cheese out of raw milk. You have to trust the source of the milk, of course. Make sure it's clean, hasn't been contaminated. But that's like any sort of milk. Even pasteurized milk can be contaminated. So make sure that you use the milk within 3 days of milking, because it'll get too acidic otherwise, because it's got natural starter cultures within it, which will readily eat the lactose in the milk, so it'll start making the milk go sour. So use it fast. Add the starter cultures that you would normally add, so you know that you've got a viable colony of lactic bacteria within the milk. Also, especially Food Safe Australia recommends, and this is not the international, this is just Food Safe Australia, recommends that if you're going to use raw milk in cheese, that it has a cooking temperature of above 48 degrees Celsius. So that kind of rules out most cheeses except for, say, the hard Italian and the Swiss style cheeses. And it has to be aged at 10 degrees Celsius for, I think it's a minimum of 10 months or something like that, or maybe a minimum of 6 months. Don't quote me. And then it's safe to eat because the amount of acid that's been produced in the cheese kills off any of the bad bacteria that may be present in the raw milk. Now, having said that, I've been doing some experiments lately with a form of raw milk here in Australia that's cold pressed raw milk, which goes through an isobaric a pressure process, which we'll see more about on this week's video. And I tell you what, not letting the cat out of the bag much, but the milk performed amazingly, as if it was a raw milk that hadn't been touched by human hands. But make your cheese away and just make sure it doesn't get contaminated. You should be fine. And Jacqueline says, I cannot seem to get curds to form to make cheese. I have tried store-bought milk and can't wait to try to make mozzarella, and it does not work. So what should I do? Don't make mozzarella. Quick mozzarella is one of the more intermediate cheeses. I would not make it as a beginner's cheese at all. I'd move on and try traditional mozzarella. And if Kim can find the link for the traditional cow's milk mozzarella for Jacqueline, then you'll find that you have far better success. However, if you can't get any curds to form in the first place, I definitely think it's the milk. It has to be. If your rennet's not old, then it should be fine. You're going to have to look for a different a different brand of milk. I hope that helps, Jacqueline. Rest11 says, thank you for your inspiration. You have finished your cheddar 3 different ways: wrapped, vacuum packed, waxed, vacuum sealed. Which is the best? What is the difference in the final produce? Cheers. None really. The final taste was about the same every single way. So, go figure. As the cheese does its thing, it's one of those natural things, and it just does what it wants to do. Comes out the same in the end. Okay. Sanan says, hi, how are you? Tell me how you're doing. I'm doing fine, thanks, mate. The Red Pill says, in Australia, you might be able to buy raw milk under the pretense that it's not safe nor intended to be consumed by a human or pet. It's actually illegal Australia-wide now. So even Bath milk, especially in Victoria anyway, what used to be sold as Bath milk now has a bittering agent. In fact, it's the same bittering agent they put into isopropyl alcohol so you don't drink it. Anyway, Bruce says, I keep getting distracted watching Gavin's counter adding new subscribers. It was kind of making them go backwards a second ago. But yeah, I can't see. It's too small on my tiny little screen here. I think we're nearly at 151,500, only 2 off. Fantastic. The Red Pill says, can you tell me how the mead video is going? It's going very well, the Red Pill. The mead has just, I put it down to ferment on the 5th of May, which is my dad's birthday. And it has now just finally finished clearing. So it is crystal clear. I'm going to rack it into bottles this weekend. And I'll be filming the last part of the video with the mead, because it's the first time I've done a fermentation video. I don't know how the YouTube algorithm's going to like it, seeing this is a cheese channel. But anyway, I'll rack it off into bottles, do a little tasty test, and see what it's like. Hopefully, fingers crossed, it's all good. It's been sitting there, like I said, since 5th of May, fermenting away. Finished fermentation now and totally clear. So that's where we're up to. Jacqueline says, no, I didn't add calcium chloride. That could have been some of the issue. And mozzarella, yes. Okay, cool. Milos says, have you finished aging your Montasio? I just did mine on the weekend. I would love to see how yours turned out. Milos, my Montasio didn't get to the taste test stage. For some reason, whatever it was, I neglected the Montasio. I think it was when I was ill a while back. Not sure what happened there, but yeah, I never got around to doing a taste test. Unfortunately, it's one of those cheeses didn't turn out for me. I think if I remember rightly, the issue was because I had it in the ripening box and I neglected it for about 3 weeks. The water, the condensation that built up on the lid of the ripening box had dripped onto the cheese itself and destroyed the rind. It started to get infected. So it was my fault. It wasn't anything about the cheese and how I made it. That'll all turn out fine for you. Just make sure that you don't neglect it in the ripening box and that the moisture from the lid drips down and wrecks your cheese. It was just a mess, so I had to throw it, unfortunately. Now, if I had known better, I could have turned it into some sort of American cheese by grating it up and adding some sodium citrate to it, but I didn't know that at the time. Anyway, Numeronics says, the Bob Ross of cheese making. Never had any interest in cheese making, but I really like your vibe to the degree that I'm actually considering buying a cheese making kit. The vibe, it's all about the vibe, and all those in Australia would know what that means. But yeah, thank you very much, Numeronics. Ruth says, great idea, YouTube, to show your vids to everybody in the world. Joy to the world. Thank you very much. But Ruth, it's good and bad because when you start seeing the comments of some of the people actually watching the Parmesan video, you probably wouldn't be that impressed. It's like gutter trash over there sometimes. So anyway, I try and delete all the bad ones as much as I can, but it hurts my eyes. Anyway, Nino says, I found your channel thanks to the Parmesan video. Oh, there you go. It was great. Oh, and greetings, Mr. Weber. Thank you very much. Don't forget that there's a Mrs. Weber behind the scenes here somewhere too, doing all of the moderation. She's the one doing all the links. Ruth says, I made burrata now that I've got the mozzarella working. Stuffed it with homemade cream cheese. Everybody loves it. Thanks. Well done, Ruth. I'm yet to make a burrata video. I haven't made burrata myself, but it should be fun. So I'll have to make the cream cheese first, and then, or what I could do is make a sneaky skyr and drain it longer, and that'll be the base in the middle, and then wrap the mozzarella stretchy around it. Should be interesting. Aga says, the only cheese I got maturing is a Parmesan. Next month, October, is 12 months old. Wife said yesterday that Cheese Kitchen access is now okay, just that the spare room is not. Progress. Well done, mate. You'll get there. Matt says, can I age halloumi after making it? Let me think. I did. I vacuum packed some halloumi because I didn't want to eat it all. I found out it got really hard. Even in the vac packing, something in the cheese made it firm, very firm. No, I'm not saying hard, very firm. However, when I then sliced it and cooked it, it went soft again and it tasted fine. So it doesn't change the flavour at all. Because you've got to remember, you don't add any starter cultures to the halloumi. If you use raw milk, then that's great. The lactobacteria will be there, but you don't add any starter cultures. It's just milk, rennet, and bingo boingo, you got yourself some halloumi. Anyway, Giggle Pants says, I was finally able to get some rennet tablets, and I can't wait to get to work on my fully fledged cheese. Well done. Best of luck. I hope it works out for you. Milos says, do you have any recipes for hard goat cheese? I think, as I said last week, you can use any of my recipes with goat milk. There's no issue at all. Maybe increase the rennet a little bit by 5%, and then you'll get a nice firm curd set. Always use calcium chloride, even when it's raw. You'll find you'll get a better yield. So yeah, there's no specific recipe for hard goat's cheese. Just use goat's milk. Okay. Alrighty. And Milos has a second question. Where do you get raw milk in Australia? You don't. It is illegal, unfortunately. Unless you own your own cow, of course, then you can get all the raw milk you want, or goat, or sheep. Ganesh says, "Hi Gavin, looking forward to your recipe on this German cheese harzer. Well, it'd be alright if I made it, but I haven't. So I'll put it down. I'll have a look. Harzer, I think, is the same as Handkäse. I'm not sure. I'll check. I don't think I've got a recipe in any of the books I've got, but I'll have to look. Anyway, we'll check it out. Thanks, Ganesh. Craig says, "Gotta go. Great show. See you Saturday." Thanks, mate. Yeah, we'll be here. Patricia says, "Just wondering if you noticed if your sodium citrate says shelf stable, or would you only make it as you need it?" Patricia, I've got it, the one I made, because I haven't bought any commercial stuff. Oh, I did the other day because I want to sell it. But in our cheese shop, the stuff that I made, I put in an airtight container, and it's fine. So the second and third time that I've made American style cheese, then it's been fine. It hasn't gone gluggy or anything. It's still very powdery, and hasn't absorbed any moisture from the air. So yeah, it seems to be okay. I think it'll last for yonks. Yonks means lots. Kim retracted her own message. What's going on there? Okay. Where am I up to? Oh, I missed it. I'm lost. Right, where are we? Right, Patricia's question. Sorry, there we go. Kim put up the link to the real mozzarella. Fantastic. Thank you, honey. Ganesh said, "Hi, Gavin. I am a beginner in starting to make cheese, and I am lactose intolerant. What should I know and prepare myself before starting to make the lactose-free ones?" Well, get yourself some lactose-free milk if you can, Ganesh. Usually you'll see one of the ingredients is lactase, which is an enzyme that splits the lactose molecules into two separate simple sugars, galactose and glucose. And then you'll be able to then you won't have any lactose in your cheese. It's just simple sugars, because lactose is a compound sugar, or complex sugar, should I say. So, or if you just have lactase powder, then you can add a little bit to the milk. I'd probably only add half a teaspoon. And that will start to work on the lactose and split it into the two sugars. And then you can just make your cheese as normal. Now, just remember that when the experiments that I did with lactose-free milk, if you age the cheese too long, it starts to taste a little bit alcohol-y. So you may find that you need to stick to, say, fresh cheeses. And I made a fresh, quick mozzarella, and that turned out fantastic. So I didn't have any issues. And my lactose intolerant daughter loved it and didn't have any issues after consuming it. So that was fine. Cassius says, "Do you have any experience making cheese in beer making pots?" I have one that works wonders for beer, but I think cheese may be interesting as you get perfect temperature control. No, I haven't had any experience doing that. And if you're talking about, I think it's electronic brewing containers, then yeah, you could use them. I would think that the yeasts that are left behind would contaminate the cheese, and you'll get an early blown cheese, and that would be no good for anybody. So I certainly wouldn't do it. So yeah, don't do it, because the cheese won't work, because you're using the same pot for making beer. What else we got there? We got Ruth says, "Try goat's milk cheddar Milos." Well, that works. Yep, well done, Ruth. Aga says, "Vegan milk is nonsense." Well, yeah, because it's not real milk. It's just nut water. Lactose-free milk is the same. Well, it's not really, Aga. I think you're not right there, because it is real milk. It's just had the enzyme lactase added to it, for those lactose intolerant people, which is fine. Ruth says, "My lactose intolerant friends can eat sheep or goat's milk cheeses without any problems, and they are delighted." I think that usually is because A lot of the lactose, a lot of those sheep or goat's milk cheeses are long aged, Ruth, and the lactose has been consumed by all the lactic bacteria. So the longer the aged cheeses are, the less lactose, and you'll find that the harder and Italian cheeses and the Alpine cheeses and even long aged cheddars have very little lactose in them anyway, so it's no big deal. Uh, John Salt says, I use my grain father as a double boiler. That'd work because if you don't use the cheese pot itself, you can use the temperature controlled thing for the double boiler and use your normal cheese pot. Then you wouldn't get any yeast. That'd be fine. Kim's thrown up the link for the lactose free quick mozzarella. Well done, honey. Thank you. That works. Patricia says, is there no way to save an early blown cheese? Not really, Patricia, because usually it's infected with a bacteria called coliform, which is usually when um, cows are fed on silage, and also and that bacteria is present and passes through the milk. Also, when cows have mastitis, it's not good for you when you get early blown cheese. And early blown cheese, you'll find, is different than late blown cheese. Late blown cheese is edible and there's no issues. Early blown cheese, it'll look like a sponge and it'll feel like a sponge, and it happens usually either during pressing or during air drying is when the bacteria, and it rapidly forms CO2 and other toxins as well, so it's no good. Um, so, yeah. However, late blown cheese, um, you can eat it, no problems at all. It just means that there's too much, I think it's butyric acid within the cheese and during the cheese making process, which can be fixed with a compound made from egg whites. I can't remember what it's called. It's not Lysofast. That's a brand of culture. Um, I can't remember. Anyway, you can buy it on Amazon. I can't find it here in Australia, but a lot of commercial companies add it to their milk so they don't get late blown cheese. And a good example of a late blown cheese, if you have a look at my Edam taste test, go and have a look at the Edam taste test, and you'll see example of a late blown cheese, which was perfectly edible. It had a big fissure down the middle, but it was fine. I find that a lot of those washed curd cheeses will late blow if you use chlorinated water as well. Go figure. When I use pure water for washing the curds, I never get a late blown cheese. So anyway, Agus says I definitely do have to do some work on vegan cheese style products. And he says milk is milk, non-vegan. Yeah. Matt says, do you plan on making a 5+ pound cheese anytime soon? I just don't have the gear for it, mate. I don't have the pot size for it, and I don't have the press for it. I don't have the mold size for it. I like to stick to smaller cheeses because that's what we'll eat. There's only 3 of us here at home. Out of all the cheeses that I taste tested yesterday, all 5, I've given half away already to friends and family. So we just can't eat that much cheese. Oh, goodness. John Salt says temperature controlled and no yeast added in the hot side. Oh, okay. Well, might be all right then. Matt says, I made a 4-pound pepper jack and I want to eventually make a 6-pound cheddar. Any advice? Yep, get a big pot, get a big press, and get a big mold. But just scale your recipe up, like I mentioned before in this episode. Scale your recipe up, and you should be fine. Charles says, is natural rennet better than vegetable-based rennet? No, they're about the same. They both contain chymosin, which is the enzyme that coagulates milk. So there's no difference there whatsoever. Animal rennet, they do say that hard Italian cheeses perform better flavour-wise if you use animal rennet than vegetable rennet. However, making the small batches that we make here at home, there's no real difference, so it's not that bad. I do find and people have reported the same, that animal rennet causes bittering early on in the cheese, whereas vegetable-based rennet does not. And I've read reports the other way around as well. So I think people are adding too much rennet to their milk. Anyway, I hope that helps, Charles. Chris B says, "Hi Gavin, do you know if there is a brining formula, i.e. if I make it slightly bigger cheese, how does that affect brining times?" A brining formula. I did read in Ricky Carroll's, what's it called, Cheese Making at Home. They suggest that for every 450 grams of cheese, you brine it for an hour. Now, I found that is way undersalted, so I don't think their formula really stands very well at all. So I don't use it. It depends on how dense the cheese is. That's the problem. So normally I brine for about a 10-litre cheese. If it's not pressed too heavily, then I'll brine it for between 10 and 12 hours to get the salt levels that I want. Other than that, I really can't help it. If it's, say, like the Grana Padano that I just made, I actually brined it for 24 hours because it was so dense that I knew the salt would have trouble getting in there. All the way to the centre, that's where I want it. So it depends on the density of the cheese and depends on the weight, I suppose, as well. But the advice I've seen in some cheese books, they're not salty enough. And then they start going bitter and rancid during maturation, so that's no good for anybody. But usually the times that I put in my recipes are quite good. That's certainly evident from the taste tests. One cheese, though, and this is just early notice, that the stabilised paste cheese that I said to brine it for 6 hours, I think I brined it a couple of hours too long because it was quite salty. It tasted okay, but it was a little bit too salty. So I would only brine, say, Camembert style cheeses. If you're going to not dry salt them, brine them for 3 to 4 hours. I think that'll be sufficiently salted in an 18% brine solution. Anyway, thanks for your question, Chris. Aga says, vegan cheese is actually underway. Making magnesium chloride is being difficult. Damn stuff keeps going all super saturated instead of crystals. Oh, okay. I haven't used magnesium chloride to turn soya beans into what's it called? It's like a rennet for soybean soy milk. Anyway, Chris B says also using some whey to make a sourdough today makes the best bread. I bet it does. I'll have to learn how to make sourdough, I think, because I really do like the stuff. Aga says the magnesium chloride seems to be Nagori, which works like rennet on soybean extract. Oh, probably the same thing, I think. Ruth says, I like the taste test buffet concept. I enjoyed watching the taste test to get ideas of what to try next. I love watching Gavin and Holly eat cheese. Who's not in her chair today. She didn't want to go there, so I won't show a shot. Well, I can. It's just an empty chair. No Holly today. She's lying in her basket. I like watching Teddy eat cheese because he makes all sorts of snuffling noises. He scoffs it back, but he's just a funny old bear. Reese says smorgasbord. Nice. Yes, indeed. So I only took that little video as a teaser. So I'll be doing the taste test individually because I think they all stand on their own equally as well. If I did a whole bunch all together, I think it'd get a little bit confusing for the well, not only for me, because all the tastes would be mixed up, but it's great for a cheese platter, that's for sure. Anyway, that looks like it's the end of the questions. So if you got some more, just throw them up there. That'll be fantastic. What I will do is I'll play the teaser video that I made yesterday. Where is it? I just got to find it first. Just to, not to fill in the time, but for those who haven't seen it yet, if I can find it. Where the heck did I put it? Sorry, my bad. I'm can't even find my own videos on my own channel. There we go. Let's go over to the desktop. And hopefully, oh, it's spinning up. It's taking a while. My goodness. All right, let's make some pretty patterns with the thing. It always happens, doesn't it? Anyway, back to me. When it starts, I'll go back. It's taking forever. Sorry about this, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Oh, here we go. It's come up. Hopefully you can hear that. And it's not too loud. Oh, there you go. That's okay. So this is the... So you'll probably hear me in the background anyway, but these are the cheeses that are coming up soon. Firstly, there will be Lancashire, which is a delightful cheese. Then Cotswold. We're going to have the fake Camembert, the Stout Cheddar, and lastly, the Wensleydale with Cranberries. Not necessarily in that order, so please stay tuned over the next few weeks where we will have a cheese smorgasbord of taste tests. Anyway, very cool. I'll just kill that. That's finished playing, which is good. Anyway, so there's little some things that are going to happen soon, and they're the cheeses. They look lovely. They're lovely, and they were lovely. Even every time I did a taste test, I gave a little bit of cheese to Kim and put it on. We're making a what do they call that? It's like a never-ending cheese platter, I suppose. There's a word I've just made up. So it was a continuous cheese platter. So every time I had a piece of cheese and tasted it, I gave a piece to Kim, and she went, "Oh, this is better than the last one. This is fantastic." But anyway, they're all great. Anyway, Ian's got a question. We've still got some time. It says temperature. You give fairly specific temperatures for maturation, sometimes 12, sometimes 13, sometimes 10. I have one cheese cave fridge with a thermostat. How critical are those temperatures? As long as your cheese cave is between 10 to 13 degrees, you won't have any troubles, really, with maturing your cheese. The only cheeses that you may have an issue with, Ian, is the mold ripened cheeses. Normally, the bloom starts at a lower temperature. However, I just put it at the coldest part of the cheese fridge, which is near the top for me. Go figure, because it's right next to the icebox part of the cheese fridge, and it stays the coldest. So they stay at about 7 degrees. Because at 13 degrees, sometimes with the white mold, you get a bit of a runaway effect. And it goes very white, mouldy, very quickly, which is not so bad, I suppose. Once that first initial ripening part, as soon as you get the white bloom, you wrap it in cheese wrap anyway, micro-perforated cheese wrap, put it in the kitchen fridge, and then let it mature very slowly. And that works well. It did for the stabilised paste one. Okay. Where are we up to? Forvo Quizet. G'day from Kentucky. G'day, mate. Late to the show. Ruth says, lots of mould growth while I was away. Worried me a bit. I've been scrubbing away. Do you think they'll be okay? Yes, Ruth. I think they will. As long as the rind hasn't been compromised, I don't think you'll have any issues with your cheese. Chris B says, if you want to learn to make sourdough, let me know. I've been doing it for years. Maybe there is a video in there. Sounds like a collab sort of thing we can get around to. I'll have to pick a weekend that's free, which aren't happening very often. But thanks for your kind offer, Chris. Appreciate it. Sailor Jeff says, finally caught one live. It's like catching a fish. I just found you 2 days ago, so addicted. Thanks very much, Sailor Jeff. Ruth has a question somewhere. Where is it? How do you know when it is too much, or is the damaged by the neglect, or is it damaged by the neglect? Don't quite understand your question, Ruth. How do you know when it is too much? As in the mold growth? Oh, right. Okay. Yeah, not sure. Yeah, look, as long as the um, as long as the mold doesn't get into the cheese itself, then you shouldn't have an issue. If it's just surface mold, that's a natural part of cheese making. It's no big deal. Aga says, Cheeseman live, cut the replay. We've seen it already. I'll stop it. Ruth says, for sourdough, I recommend Chad Robinson's books. The best sourdough. I make it every week, but I have to keep it separate from the cheese. Indeed. John says, have you considered making layered cheese, as in cheddar and blue or other mixes? I can't remember if you've done this. John, I've done a marbled cheddar, but I haven't done something like, say, Colby and Romano or cheddar and Romano or something like that. I think Romano's are good because they're two equally sharp flavours, so that would be interesting. I haven't done that yet, so I'll have to put that on the list. So that's a combo cheese. They'd have to be fairly small batches, so that'd be something to do. Frank says, can Roquefort be made at home? Well, you can make something similar if you use sheep's milk and use Penicillium Roquefort. Use any of my blue cheese recipes. They should be fine. Ganesh says, hi, Gavin. Spice Quark, a German fresh cheese variety, has high protein, low carbs. Would like to see you make and teach us. Preferably give some tips and info on how to make it lactose-free. Use lactose-free milk is the way to make it lactose-free. Ganesh, and if you check out the Icelandic skier video, very, very similar to Quark. So check that out. Kim says, that was dinner last night on the cheese platter. Yes, it was. Ruth says, sounds good, Kim. No pots to wash. Ganesh says, what are your underrated cheeses that mostly go under the radar? Well, most of the cheeses on this channel are underrated, I reckon, because YouTube don't serve them up enough. Underrated cheeses. I think washed rind cheeses are underrated by people because of the smell. I think that you get a nice smelly washed rind cheese, and you will be amazed by the flavour. It just is totally amazing. So if you get your hands on some smelly washed rind, you'll be fine. Aga says, don't do that again. You'll lose subscribers. Oh, I hope not. Just for a simple little video. Ian says, thumbs up. Thanks. Kim says, I was busy restocking shop items, so it was ideal, Ruth, and no washing up. Nice. Aga says, the appeal of live chat is being live. It was only for a minute, mate. Calm down. John, wine or beer, cheese layers as well. That will be interesting. John. Ruth says, thanks, Gavin and Kim, for another wonderful chat. So happy to be back. See you next time. Oh, we're not finished yet. Oh, well, yes, we are. Thanks, Ruth, for giving me wind up. Usually Kim does that. But Patricia says, New England cheese making has a video on layering cheese called Huntsman's cheese. Oh, write that down. Huntsman's cheese. All right, but yes, I'll have to tee that up. We'll put that anyway. All right, so 2 minutes to go. Thank you very much for watching, everybody. I appreciate it. Don't get too upset about the non-live video in the stream. It was just to show people the cheese is coming up. So if you want to visit the shop, if you want to get any cheese gear from us, you don't have to. Don't be obliged. But the link is littlegreenworkshops.com.au. And we have an example of the shop. Oop, there it is. You can see a picture of me as well, more pictures. So here's our cheese making part of our shop, Little Green Workshops. And yeah, we have all the gear there, from cheese accessories, kits, molds and cultures, rennet, equipment, baskets, ingredients, some books, and some merch, which I'm wearing as well. So that's all very cool. Don't forget that you can support us via Patreon or YouTube membership. There's a join button below. There's some links to Patreon below if you want to be a financial member and help the show out. And you can buy merch over at teespring.com, and you probably see the merch shelf down below anyway. Okay, Kim says spider cheese. I don't know what she's talking about there. But anyway, Huntsman. Oh, right, Huntsman spiders. That's what we have over here in Australia. They're nice and big spiders. Anyway, thanks very much. Your channel isn't the source of my income. Just trying to help you, mate. Thank you, mate. That's all right. Aga. That's okay. All right. Thank you very much, everybody. I totally appreciate you being here as always and asking all the questions. Until Saturday at the same time, same channel, we will see you then. Yeah, see you next time from me and Kim.